Hello and welcome back. We are on page 16 and we just left off with Miranda talking about Sal and losing a friend when they first came to their new apartment. Things that kick. Losing Sal was like a long list of bad things, and somewhere in the top half of the list was the fact that I had to walk home alone past the crazy guy on our corner. He showed up around the beginning of the school year when Sal and I still walked home from school together. A few kids called him Quack, short for Quackers, or they called him Kicker because he used to do these sudden kicks into the street like he was trying to punt one of the cars speeding up Amsterdam Avenue. Sometimes he shook his fist at the sky and yelled crazy stuff like, "What's the burn scale? Where's the dome?" And then he threw his head back and laughed, these loud, crazy laughs. So everyone could see that he had about 30 fillings in his teeth. And he was always on our corner, sometimes sleeping with his head under the mailbox. "Don't call him Quack," Mom said. "That's an awful name for a human being." "Even a human being who's Quackers?" "I don't care. It's still awful." "Well, what do you call him?" "I don't call him anything," she said, "but I think of him as the Laughing Man." Back when I still walked home with Sal, it was easier to pretend that the Laughing Man didn't scare me, because Sal was pretending too. He tried not to show it, but he freaked when he saw the Laughing Man shaking his fist at the sky and kicking his leg out into the traffic. I could tell by the way Sal's face kind of froze. I knew all of his expressions. I used to think of Sal as being a part of me. Sal and Miranda, Miranda and Sal. I knew he wasn't really, but that's the way it felt. When we were too little for school, Sal and I went to daycare together at a lady's apartment down the block. She had picked up some carpet samples at a store on Amsterdam Avenue and written the kids' names on the backs. After lunch, she'd pass out these carpet squares and we'd pick our spots on the living room floor for nap time. Sal and I always lined ours up to make a rectangle. One time when Sal had a fever and Louisa had called in sick to her job and kept him home, the daycare lady handed me my carpet square at nap time. And then, a second later, she gave me Sal's too. "I know how it is, baby," she said. And I lay on the floor, not sleeping, because Sal wasn't there to press his foot against mine. When he first showed up on our corner last fall, the Laughing Man was always mumbling under his breath, "Book bag, pocket shoe, book bag, pocket shoe." He said it like a chant, "Book bag, pocket shoe, book bag, pocket shoe." And sometimes he would be hitting himself on the head with his fists. Sal and I usually tried to get really interested in our conversation and act like we didn't notice. It's crazy the things a person can pretend not to notice. "Why do you think he sleeps like that with his head under the mailbox?" I asked Richard, back when the Laughing Man was brand new and I was still trying to figure him out. "I don't know," Richard said, looking up from the paper. "Maybe so nobody steps on his head?" "Very funny. And what's a pocket shoe, anyway?" "Pocket shoe," he said, looking serious. "Noun, an extra shoe you keep in your pocket in case someone steals one of yours while you're asleep with your head under the mailbox." "Ha, ha, ha," I said. "Oh, Mr. Perfect," Mom said, "you and your amazing dictionary head." She was in one of her good moods that day. Richard tapped his right knee and went back to his newspaper. Things that get tangled. Lucky for Mom, some of the old people in the nursing home where Louisa works like to watch the $20,000 pyramid at lunchtime. Louisa takes notes on every show and brings them over after work. She gets off at 4, so I have to write out the day's words on stolen index cards before Mom gets home. Tonight, Mom and Richard are practicing in the living room. I'm supposed to be doing homework in my room, but instead I'm tying knots and I'm thinking. It was Richard who taught me how to tie knots. He learned back when he sailed boats as a kid, and he still carries pieces of rope in his briefcase. He says that when he's trying to solve a problem at work, he takes out the ropes, ties them into knots, unties them, and then ties them again. It gets him in the right frame of mind. 2 Christmases ago, which was his first Christmas with us, Richard gave me my own set of ropes and started showing me the knots. Now I can make every knot he knows, even the clove hitch, which I did backward for a few months before I got it right. So, I am tying and untying knots and seeing if it helps me solve my problem, which is you. I have no idea what you expect from me. If you just wanted to know what happened that day this past winter, it would be easy. Not fun, but easy. But that's not what your note says. It says to write down the story of what happened and everything that led up to it. And, as Mom likes to say, that's a whole different bucket of poop. Except she doesn't use the word poop. Because even if you were still here, even if I did decide to write the letter, I wouldn't know where to start. The day the Laughing Man showed up on our corner, the day Mom and Louisa met in the lobby, the day I found your first note, There is no answer. But if someone sat on my legs and forced me to name the day the whole true story began, I'd say it was the day Sal got punched. Things that stain. It happened in the fall, when Sal and I still walked home from school together every single day. 1 block from West End Avenue to Broadway. 1 block from Broadway to Amsterdam, past the Laughing Man on our corner, and then half a block to our lobby door. That middle block between Broadway and Amsterdam is mostly a huge garage, where the sidewalk is all slanted, and we had to be careful when it was icy or else we'd slip right in front of the pack of boys always hanging out there. If we did fall, they'd make a really big deal out of it, staggering around laughing, and sometimes calling us names that made our hearts beat fast the rest of the way home. The day Sal got punched, there was no ice on the ground because it was only October. I was carrying the big oak tag Mysteries of Science poster I'd made at school. I had drawn a big bubble letters for the title, which was, "Why do we yawn?" There are a lot of interesting theories about yawning. Some people think it started as a way of showing off the teeth to scare predators away, or as a way to stretch facial muscles, or to signal to the rest of the tribe that it's time to sleep. My own theory, which I included on my poster, is that yawning is a semi-polite way of telling someone that they're boring everyone to death. Either that or it's a slow-motion sneeze, but no one knows for sure, which is why it's a mystery of science. The day Sal got punched, the boys by the garage were hanging out as usual. The day before, there had been a fight, which one of them slamming another one up against a parked car and hitting him. The kid getting hit had both of his hands up like he was saying, "Enough!" But every time he tried to get off the hood of that car, the other kid pushed him down and hit him again. The other boys were all jumping around and yelling, and Sal and I had crossed to the other side of the street so that we wouldn't get accidentally slammed by somebody. On the day Sal got punched, the boys were being regular, so we stayed on our usual side. But just as we started past the garage, someone moved away from the group. He took a big step toward me and Sal and blocked our way, so we had to stop. I looked up and saw a not too biggish kid in a green army coat. He made a fist that came up like a wave and hit Sal right in the stomach, hard. Sal doubled over and gurgled like he was going to throw up, and then the kid whacked him across the face. "Sal!" I yelled. I glanced over at Bell's Market on Amsterdam, but no one was out front. Sal was bent over and frozen. The kid just stood there for a few seconds with his head tilted to one side. It seemed crazy, but it actually looked like he was reading my Mysteries of Science poster. Then he turned away and started strolling toward Broadway like nothing had happened. "Sal!" I leaned over to see his face, which looked okay but had one cheek all red. "Walk," I said. "We're almost home." Sal's feet started to move. It took me a few steps to realize that the boys weren't laughing or whistling or calling us names. They hadn't made a sound. I looked back and saw them standing there, staring after the kid in the green army coat, who was still walking in the other direction. "Hey!" one of them yelled down the block after him. "What the hell was that?" But the kid didn't look back. Sal was moving slowly. He squeezed the arms of the blue satin Yankees jacket Louisa got him for his birthday, and tears were dropping down his face. And I almost cried, but didn't. It was my job to get him home, and he still had to get by the Laughing Man. He was on our corner, marching around in a circle and doing some salutes. Sal was crying harder and walking in a hunch. Some blood had started dripping out of his nose, and he wiped it with the blue and white striped cuff of his jacket. He gagged a lot. Sounded like he might actually throw up. When he saw us, the Laughing Man dropped his arms to his sides and stood up straight. He reminded me of the big wooden nutcracker Louisa puts out on her kitchen table at Christmas time. "Smart kid," he said. He took a step forward toward us, but it was enough to make Sal take off running for home. I ran after him, trying to hold on to my poster and get my keys out of my jeans. When I had gotten us into the lobby, Sal went straight to his apartment and closed the door on me. I knocked for a while, but Louisa wasn't home from work yet, and he wouldn't let me in. If I'm not wrong, this is the beginning of the story you wanted me to tell. And I didn't know it yet, but it was the end of my friendship with Sal.